There are people who move through the world gently, like a quiet river hidden beneath a forest canopy. They aren't loud, nor hurried, nor hungry for the noise that fills most days. They carry a peace others often misunderstand, a desire to be alone, not out of avoidance, but alignment. This is the story of those who feel most themselves in solitude. Not lost, not lonely, but finally clear. A portrait of inner landscapes where silence becomes a language and aloneness becomes home. They always knew there was something different about the way silence felt to them. Where others rushed to fill the empty spaces, they breathed into them, slowly, tenderly, as if silence itself were a sanctuary waiting to be entered. For them, alone time was never a punishment. It was a doorway. A place where the self could stretch, unclench, and remember its own shape without interruption. But in a world that prizes noise, speed, and constant availability, their preference was often met with confusion. You're too quiet. You think too much. Why don't you go out more? Questions asked with concern or judgment, or the quiet assumption that solitude is a flaw to be corrected. They rarely explain the truth. That solitude is not an escape, but a return. Not a wall, but a clearing. In their early years, they began noticing the subtle heaviness that came with crowds. Not because people were unwelcome, but because presence had weight, and too much weight could blur the edges of their inner world. So they learned the gentle art of retreating. Stepping outside onto balconies when gatherings became too loud. Finding empty corridors during school events. Hiding in books, in sketch pads, in music with soft corners. It wasn't loneliness. It was alignment. A quiet recognition that their emotional breathing room lived in the spaces untouched by noise. They sensed something important there, a fragile truth that only surfaced when no one was watching. That in solitude they didn't shrink. They expanded. And though they couldn't yet name it, this was the beginning of understanding. That being alone could feel like returning to the deepest, most honest version of themselves. The pull towards solitude doesn't appear suddenly. It forms slowly, shaped by experiences that teach someone to trust their inner world more than the outer one. Some learned it in childhood, in bedrooms where imagination grew louder than the house around them. They discovered early that they could soothe themselves, entertain themselves, rebuild themselves. Self-reliance wasn't a skill, it was instinct. Others learned solitude in environments where emotional space was scarce. Homes where the noise was constant or unpredictable or heavy with expectation. In those places, solitude became a refuge. The one corner where overstimulation loosened its grip and the mind could finally breathe. Some discovered aloneness after heartbreaks that taught them the cost of giving too much. After friendships where they played the listener but never the one listened to. After relationships where their softness was mistaken for emptiness. Solitude became a recalibration, a gentle return to balance. And for some, it wasn't born from pain at all. Just a natural preference, like favoring dusk over noon, or the hush of early mornings over the rush of afternoons. Their inner tempo was slower, quieter, more contemplative, and the world rarely matched that rhythm. Across these origins, one thing remained constant. Solitude wasn't the absence of people, it was the presence of self. It was the place where unspoken thoughts rose to the surface, where emotions had room to stretch out, where creativity emerged without the pressure of being seen. And in this rooted pull toward quiet, they discovered something profound. That their bond with themselves was not a backup plan, but a primary connection. A place that felt less like isolation, and more like home. People who enjoy spending time alone are often wired with a particular sensitivity, not fragility but depth. Their minds take in more, feel more, process more. Where others wade in the surface-level waters of experience, they move toward the deeper currents. Psychologists call this high internal orientation. A mind turned inward, not out of avoidance, but attention. They're attuned to inner signals the way some people are attuned to external ones. This inward focus creates a heightened awareness of subtle emotions, quiet tensions, fleeting intuitions. Solitude becomes the place where all of this can be heard. Many also possess what is known as low social arousal. Their nervous systems aren't built to thrive on constant interaction. Noise, chatter, social performance. These things don't drain them because they're weak. They drain them because their minds process every detail. They don't just hear conversations, they absorb them. They don't just notice emotions, they feel them ripple through the room. So while others may thrive in stimulation, they decompress in quiet. There is also the trait of deep processing. Their minds rarely skim. They linger, analyze, explore. A single idea can become a landscape. A single emotion can unfold into a constellation of meaning. Solitude provides the mental bandwidth for this. It gives them the freedom to slow down and follow a thought to the end, to feel something fully without interruption. And finally, there is the core truth. They don't fear aloneness. Where many equate solitude with emptiness, they experience it as fullness. It becomes a container for authenticity, a space untouched by performance, expectation, or the need to be on. In solitude, they are not disconnected. They are deeply connected to themselves, to their inner world, to the quiet wisdom that grows when no one else is speaking. Inner conflict and resistance. Despite their comfort with aloneness, there is an unspoken tension that often follows them. Not from solitude itself, but from how others interpret it. People ask why they're so distant, why they don't text back instantly, why they disappear after social events, why they sit at the edge of gatherings instead of the center. The assumptions come quietly but steadily, unfriendly, uninterested, cold, detached. But none of that is true. Inside they care deeply, often more deeply than those who speak the loudest. They simply love from a distance that feels safe. A distance where connection doesn't drown their inner landscape. Yet this misunderstanding creates a small fracture. The pressure to appear more social than they are. The pressure to perform energy they don't naturally carry. The pressure to reassure people constantly that nothing is wrong. And when they fail to meet these expectations, guilt settles in. A soft guilt, like a shadow at their feet. Guilt for needing space. Guilt for withdrawing. Guilt for choosing silence in a world that fears it. Inside them, a quiet conflict forms. The longing to honor their natural rhythm, and the fear of disappointing the world around them. Sometimes they push themselves into the noise, ignoring the heaviness in their chest, staying longer than they should, smiling wider than they feel, only to return home exhausted, not from people but from pretending. They begin to wonder, is something wrong with them? Why does solitude feel like oxygen, while too much company feels like drowning? This is the internal resistance, the sense of being other, the fear of being misunderstood, the conflict of loving people, but loving their own company more. It is not a flaw. It is the unseen tension carried by those who were built for deeper, quieter rhythms. There comes a moment, often quietly without fanfare, when something shifts. It isn't a dramatic epiphany, but a soft recognition, like noticing that the sun has finally risen. The realization is this: there is nothing wrong with enjoying time alone. It is not emptiness. It is alignment. It happens when they meet someone who understands their silence instinctively. Someone who doesn't flood their space or take their quiet personally. Someone who sits beside them without needing to fill the air. In that moment, they see the truth reflected gently. Their solitude isn't a barrier to connection, only a different language of it. It happens during a long walk, when they notice how naturally their thoughts flow, when no one else is speaking, how the world feels clearer, softer, more honest, when filtered through their own stillness. It happens when they look around a room full of noise, and suddenly understand why their nervous system tenses, not from fear, but from overstimulation. It happens when they reflect on all the times solitude healed them. After heartbreak, after disappointment, after days when the world felt too heavy. Each time, solitude welcomed them back without judgment. And slowly the shame dissolves. They stop defending their preference. They stop apologizing for their quiet. They stop forcing themselves into spaces that drain their inner clarity. Instead, they begin to see their aloneness as something sacred. A space where their mind becomes sharp, their heart becomes steady, and their emotions can finally speak in full sentences. The realization is simple yet life-changing. They aren't running away from the world. They're running toward themselves. Healing for people who enjoy spending time alone isn't about becoming more social. It's about honoring the rhythm their inner world has always known. They learn to build a life that makes room for solitude without guilt. A life where alone time isn't a retreat, but a ritual. Where silence becomes nourishment, not avoidance. They begin choosing relationships that respect their need for space. People who understand that distance doesn't mean disconnection. That quiet can coexist with love. That presence doesn't always require noise. They discover that healthy solitude enhances connection rather than replaces it. Because when their inner world is full, their outer connections become more genuine, less crowded by overstimulation, more grounded in intention. They also learn to listen to their energy. They stop forcing themselves into environments that feel too loud, too bright, too demanding. They give themselves permission to leave early, to rest, to recharge without justification. And most importantly, they begin to understand the truth of their nature. Their depth is not accidental. Their quiet is not inadequacy. Their preference for solitude is not a flaw. It is a form of emotional intelligence. The ability to hear the whispers beneath the noise. The ability to find meaning in stillness. Healing is not loud for them. It is subtle. It happens in long evenings spent alone with their thoughts. In afternoons where the world fades and their mind becomes a sanctuary. In the slow realization that solitude has always been a companion, not a cage. Integration looks like peace. The kind that doesn't demand understanding, only acceptance. They begin to live softly but with certainty. Not rejecting the world, but not abandoning themselves for it. They become whole, in quiet. Some people are simply built for quieter landscapes, not because they lack something, but because they feel everything. Their solitude is not an exit from life, but a doorway into deeper presence. A place where their thoughts gather gently, where their emotions unfold without rush, where their soul remembers its own weight and softness. In a world afraid of silence, they become fluent in it. They learn that aloneness is not loneliness, but a form of clarity, a return to the self. And so they move through life not loudly, not urgently, but with a quiet confidence that the most meaningful conversations often happen within, and the most honest version of themselves emerges when the world grows still.